This is Karan here. I live in Saudi Arabia studying 10th grade in Yambo International School. Here, as you guys can see, we have a geometric sequence. It's a geometric sequence because the digits are being generated by multiplication rather than addition or subtraction. Okay, so what is the multiplicative term? Well, if you see the multiplicative term between these two is 3. Between these two is 3. Between these two is 3. So we can assume that it just goes on forever. Now the A1th value, which is the first value, is 2. And we multiply it by number 3 to generate the second value. Now the second value is 2 times this value times the other value to generate this value over here. Okay? Now, okay? So the second term is 2 times 3. The third term is, okay, and you just keep going on forever. You just basically increase the number of multiplication. Well, what if we need to make a formula out of this? Well, if we needed to make a formula, we can say that A1 would be equal to A1 times the R raised to the 0th exponent. First, this is the difference raised to the 0th exponent. Since anything raised to 0 is 1, so 2 times 1 is 1, 2. So for the second one, you would have A1 times R raised to the 1 power. As you see, we always decrease the number over here, minus 1, that is 1 over here. So for the A3rd, we can assume that it's A1 times R raised to the second power. For the fourth one, it's A4 is equal to A1 is equal to times R raised to the third power. Okay, so it's just n minus 1. Now if you needed to generate a formula for the general formula out of this, we can assume that A raised to the nth term, which we don't know yet, could be infinity, would be A1 times R raised to the n minus 1. If you take 100, it would be 99. If you take 110, it would be 109. And so on. Okay, now let's go ahead and actually put in some values, replace some values with R, and so on. Okay, so we found out the R is 3. Okay, the R is the multiplicative difference that we said. So we found out in the pattern earlier that A1 was 2, the R was equal to 3, so the nth term would be equal to A1 times R n minus 1, correct? So we can always replace the values. An term would be equal to the first value, which is 2, the R value, which is 3 minus n minus 1. Okay, so this is the formula that we are generating now. So use this formula to generate the n term in the geometric sequence that we took earlier before starting the section. Okay? Now, what if it says, the question says A15th is, find A15th, okay, if A1 is equal to 20 and R is equal to 1.05. Well, it's simply easy because we have just generated a formula which basically looks like this. A raised to the n term would be A1 times R raised to n minus 1. So A raised to the 15th is what we are trying to find. Is equal to A1, which is given to us as 20, times R, which is 1.05, n minus 1, which is 15 minus 1, that would be 14, so A to the 15th would be equal to 20 times 1.05 raised to the 14th power. And if you do this in your calculator, it would be approximately 39.599. easy enough to understand. So the value of A15 is approximately 39.599. This is how you can find the geometric sequence of any pattern given. Even if there is no pattern given, like this example just tells us the first value and the common difference between them. We can generate the random arbitrary value just like possible. Okay? And what if a sequence, a pattern was given to us and we need to find some values out of it? Well, let's say if you were given that the first value is -1/3, second one is +1/9, third is 1/27, fourth one is 1/81, and so on. Okay? And you need to find, says find a to the 8th, the 8th term. Well, we know what we can find out of this pattern is that the first term is basically easy to find out because you just look at the pattern. A1 term is -1/3, okay? And the R, if you needed to find the R, well, I have no idea what the R is, so what I'm going to do is divide this by this, or A3 by A2. You can even divide A2 by A1. Okay, so it goes backwards. If you do, you can do this, or you can do this, or you can do this. Okay, so A3 by A2, that would be first, second, third, would be -1/27 over 1/9. Okay, so you get the difference to be -1/3, and that would work in all. Okay, since I know the difference I found out would be -1/3, you need to check in every single digits area. So you need to do this thrice to make sure that it is a geometric series, because it would work in 2, but it wouldn't work over here sometimes. Okay, now since I've already given you the correct geometric sequence, let's go ahead and find out the A8th value. So we found out the A1st value, which is -1/3, and coincidentally we also found the R to be -1/3. So we can say the A_nth value is equal to A1 times R raised to n minus 1. That would be A8th power would be A1, which is -1/3 times -1/3 divided by 8 minus 1 would be A8 is equal to -1/3 times -1/3 over 7. And if you do this in your calculator, you would get a value. Okay? So that value would be the term for A8th. I'm just clearing these things out over here. I haven't written the answer over here because I want you to solve it with me. Okay? Now let's move on to next examples. Fairly easy. So if you move on, the question says the second value is this, and the 5th value is this. Then what is A1's value? How are you going to actually accomplish this task? Well, we said that A_nth is equal to A1 R n minus 1, correct? So A2, if you needed to find that, would be A1 R1 raised to the 1st power. That would be 3 is equal to A1 R raised to the 1 power is just R, so I'm just going to leave this right here. And for the 5th value, we said A5th is equal to A1 times R raised to the 4th power. Okay, we can say that, or we can also say 3/64 is equal to a1 r raised to the fourth power. Now you can do this with me, which basically means that 3 over r, if you solve this for r, you'd basically, if you plug in this system of inequalities, you basically end up as a1 to be 3 over r. Okay, so you need to solve this by yourself. Now that we have found a1, let's go ahead and move on to find the actual value of r. So 3 over 64 is equal to 3 over r raised to r raised to the fourth power. Now if you divide 3 on both sides, it would basically be like this. Is equal to 3 times r raised to the fourth power divided by 3. Okay? Because you have r at the end, this would cancel out and bring it to 3. Okay, and that since we divided 3 on both sides, we have the equation that looks like this. So if we cancel this out, this would basically be giving us 1 over 64 is equal to r cubed. Now you need to do this in your calculator, something which looks like this. Okay, so the term you will get for r would be equal to 1 over 4. Oops. So now that you have found out the r, you can 3 divided by 1 over 4 would be the a1th value. So let's go ahead and do that. So it will be, to find the a1st value, we can say that a2 divided by a1, a2 divided by r would give us a1th value. Now if we know the a2 value, which is 3, and we know the r the value, which we found out would be 1 over 4, so it would give us a1. Now if you do this in your calculator, you would basically get 12 as a1. So now you have successfully found out the value of the first digit. Okay, now what I want you guys to do is pay attention to this box, because this box generally summarizes the whole 3 sections that we have talking about in past studies. Okay, so there's arithmetic series and there's geometric series. So we talked about lots of formulas in geometric and arithmetic series. So arithmetic, and you have geometric. Okay, the first one is the n term. Okay, in arithmetic, how are you actually finding it? Basically n minus 1 times the difference. Okay, now sum of n terms. Remember, we use sigma notation for this, but in an arithmetic series you basically use n over 2 a1 plus an. In geometric, for the an term, we just discussed a1 times r raised to n minus 1, and for geometric sum of n numbers would be a times 1 minus r over 1 minus r raised to the n power. 1 minus r raised to the n power divided by 1 minus r. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a like, comment, and subscribe. Guys, you can do me a favor. There's a Facebook link down below in the description area. Go ahead and click on that. Give it a like to that page. It really helps me out. Thank you for watching. Peace out as always.